As of 2024, there is approximately 8 billion people on the planet. With a growing populace, it would be no wonder why more and more damage has been done to the planet. It is predicted that between 2050 and 2070, one-third of all animals will go extinct due to global warming, deforestation, and habitat destruction. In fact, in a 2023 study of 71,000 animals, it was found almost half of populations were declining at an almost 50% rate. A low percentage, being 3% of all populations studied, were increasing. These are devastating numbers that show our planet's animals are suffering and struggling to survive and thrive. The major cause in this study was found to be deforestation and habitat destruction. This effect also had rippling effects on plants and fruits, as the declines of seed dispensers like the hyacinth macaws in the Brazilian rainforest greatly impacted the availability of such fruits. So where do zoos fit into this picture? Many of us have had experiences at least as children visiting zoos. Seeing animals up close, we would never have the chance to without zoos. The joy we felt from seeing a polar bear, seals, majestic lions, to huge giraffes. It opened our eyes to the creatures who inhabit our world and gave us a glimpse into their lives. It also made us care for their existence and preservation. Therefore, a critical theory to examine is the necessity or cruelty of zoos. Is it wrong for us to keep animals in cages for our amusement? Is there a bigger purpose to zoos? Should we support zoos, or should we move in a direction of dismantling this system? Let's dive deeper. Evidence through the discovery of ancient wall depictions displays that in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, rulers and aristocrats created menageries as early as 2500 BCE. Menageries being personal collections by elite members of exotic animals such as elephants, hippos, baboons, and big cats, etc. These collections were seen as a status of power and wealth. Such collections were also to be found in ancient China, Greece, and Rome. As these menageries did hire handlers for their animals to thrive, these collections of animals were not open to the public. Yet, the first modern zoo as we know them was built in 1793 in Paris, France. Opened by French aristocrats, including the king and queen, and taken over during the French Revolution, this facility was renamed Ménagerie du Jardin des Plantes and is still operational and a popular zoo within downtown Paris. Zoos like this one did not focus on how the environments matched the animals, and in fact, animals were kept in small displays, fitting as many as they could. This wasn't allowing of proper or adequate capacities for a fulfilling life, and a prime example was the King of France had an elephant sent to this zoo in 1855. Even though it had its own special housing, it died after only a couple of years. Urban and suburban zoos of today still resemble much of their predecessors, with the urban settings not giving ideal space for animals to truly survive and thrive, and little chance of expansion due to a lack of space, and many becoming historic landmarks that are not allowed to be destroyed or redesigned. Yet, these tend to be more located currently in Europe, as countries like the United States are moving into a new direction. In fact, some modern zoos are presenting more space for animals and recreating natural habitats. In the USA, open-range zoos have given animals more territory to roam and provide more naturalistic environments. Their goal, aside from just being entertainment, is to engage the public in education and conservation of species. For instance, the San Diego Zoo in Southern California is the largest zoo in the United States. With 4,000 animals and 800 different species in its 100 acres, this zoo has also expanded to have an additional 2,000 acres, which is called the San Diego Safari Park. In this facility, many good things are happening due to technology and the caring staff. In 2019, the zoo in its new exhibit of rhinos was able to have a live birth, as their white rhino named Victoria had a male calf named Edward, becoming the first rhinoceros to be born in North America from artificial insemination. This is important as white rhinos are on a near-threatened list, with only 10,080 mature individuals left in the wild, and these numbers are decreasing. This has become a staple in many modern zoos, as even the Toronto Zoo is participating in captive breeding of rare and endangered animals for the purpose of reintroduction programs. The hope of these zoos is to bring these populations back into the wild and keep them alive for the future. In particular, the Toronto Zoo is working to breed black-footed ferrets, Blanding's turtles, Puerto Rican crested toad, eastern loggerhead shrike, trumpeter swan, and the Vancouver Island marmot. Yet, such tasks as these are not the most easy task to do, as captive breeding can be difficult due to limited housing space and trying to establish a genetic pool for mating that is vast enough. Often this results in zoos trading animals for the purpose of breeding projects. For instance, the Toronto Zoo used to have tree kangaroos, a rare species, and decided to send them to another zoo to be able to be in a breeding project. As well as projects like breeding and reintroduction to the wild, many zoos have their employees also study the habitats and animal populations surrounding their own country, so that they also can work to conserve those species. We all have likely seen videos of animals suffering in zoos, or feel bad they are in a cage for our entertainment. But conversely, we can say this situation is a double-edged sword, as zoos and other conservational projects may be the only places some animals will exist, or have a chance of recovering in populations for introduction into the wild. We have to also realize that we, as humans, have had a part in animals facing extinction, and therefore, we should also recognize where zoos and others are helping to save their populations. We don't have to look at zoos as good or bad, but possibly a necessary system to addressing populations of animals that are facing mass extinction. In fact, did you know, facilities like turtle farms, breeding of sea turtles in the Cayman Islands, have led to the release of 31,000 sea turtles since 1968, giving the sea turtles the chance to breed naturally in the wild on the Cayman Islands seashores and abroad. This becomes important as nearly all species of sea turtles are classified as endangered. Alternatively, zoos and such facilities have another side that should also be addressed into what disservice these systems have done for animals. Elephants are pack animals, and female groups stay together their whole life. Yet with spacing issues in zoos or other animal industries, much like in the movie Dumbo, elephants and other exotics are often separated from their families. Animals are also being trained for entertainment purposes. This is just one psychological entrapment for these animals. In fact, being in a cage alone and not being free to explore and live a natural life psychologically does damage. Imagine we were all trapped in a cage, never to be free. We would call this inhumane, and yet we allow this for animals. Examples include conditions not present on a high scale in the wild, including giraffes developing anxiety, brown bears developing obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, and depression in animals like leopards, and gibbons, who in the wild travel far distances daily. Conversely, even physical well-being is compromised in some manners. For instance, 70% of adult male gorillas in North America have heart disease, the leading cause of gorillas' deaths in captivity. Despite evidence in studies of wild gorillas displaying this, is not an issue they face in their natural environments. In addition, elephants are also a prime example, as it is found that on average, they don't live nearly half as long as wild elephants. In addition to shorter lives, it was also found elephants in captivity were at a higher rate of obesity, with 71% being overweight and spending 83% of their time indoors. Yet, I would also like to add a recognition that because of some activists like Bob Barker, elephants aren't permitted in captivity in places like Toronto Zoo, where the weather conditions don't allow them adequate time outdoors. When we examine zoos, it is apparent that this system has harsh cons as well as significant pros. So you may ask yourself, aren't there other ways we can help promote animal conservation and survival? It would not be adequate if we did not address alternatives being presented in the world. One being Animal Planet or National Geographic, which we can access on our televisions or computer or in paper articles in the convenience of our homes. We are offered a chance to see real-life glimpses into these animals' natural lives in a more humane way. As some do push their own agendas, for example during Shark Week, some of the ways they try to interact with these species of sharks or use horror stories becomes for clicks and higher ratings than actually portraying them for who they are. Yet, we can also say at least they aren't being forced into cages or aquariums, forced to one location, they are free. A con of this side of doing things is it doesn't allow for up-close encounters for those who wish to experience this. And as much as that is true, there are examples of ways people can encounter animals without cages in safe ways. In Grand Cayman, they have sandbars called Stingray City, where they take tourists to in the ocean and allow them to experience wild stingrays, feeding them and seeing them live free. In fact, actual stings by stingrays in this setting are very minimal, as low as one a year, and usually from people scaring or hurting the animal. But here, the wild stingrays are choosing to come. They are not forced or pressured into staying or going and come as they please. It becomes a memory people keep and an experience they feel good about because they got to experience the animal in a way that is respectful to both parties. Yet, it would be unrealistic to say we could do this with all species, as we of course wouldn't encourage people to go swimming with alligators or crocodiles in the wild. It would be dangerous and, dare I say it, we aren't Steve Irwin. With our world changing in so many ways, the treatment of animals must evolve, and as we consider our own life, freedom, and well-being, we too must also consider theirs. Nothing on this planet exists for no reason, and therefore, as we move forward in finding ways to take care of our planet in this evolving world, we must add animal lives into this mix. The solution is not always so easy, as we saw in this deep dive. Zoos are doing good, but also doing wrong by animals. We as a collective must decide where we want our future relations with animals to be like. Please leave your comments. We would love to hear from you and like and subscribe to see more deep dives into the theories that surround our planet.